My name is Nora. I'm 30 years old, and I work as a graphic designer at a media company in Seattle. 6 months ago, I got engaged to Aiden, the man I had loved for 4.5 years. We first met at a design workshop, arguing intensely over a logo concept. Both of us were stubborn, both convinced we were right. Strangely enough, it was Aiden's refusal to back down that made me notice him. That's how our relationship grew, quietly, without fanfare or drama. Just two people navigating life's chaos, learning to understand each other through the little things. I used to think, if anyone deserved to be in the next chapter of my life, it was Aiden. Our wedding was set for this fall, right when the maple trees would turn crimson. Everything was nearly ready, the venue booked, invitations sent, the dress hanging in my room, waiting for the final fitting. Friends and coworkers offered their congratulations, and my parents couldn't hide their pride, seeing their independent daughter preparing to walk down the aisle. It all felt like we were reaching that perfect happiness. Until that name resurfaced in my life. A younger sister? The person who had not only ruined my youth, but also dismantled the career I had worked so hard to build. Harper and I are 4 years apart, but the real distance between us was never about age. Harper always knew how to make everything about herself. When I studied hard to top my class, Harper only needed a few tears to pull all attention back to her. When I was accepted into my dream college, Harper sat in front of our parents, sobbing about the pressure of being compared. That celebration dinner for my college acceptance, it turned into a therapy session for Harper, while I sat silently in the corner, swallowing the bitterness. But the worst came 3 years ago. I had just been promoted to project lead at a prestigious design firm in San Francisco. Years of dedication, sleepless nights, pushing myself to prove my worth had finally paid off. I remember the exact moment I received my promotion letter. I cried right there in the office, knowing I had made it. Less than a month later, everything collapsed. I was indefinitely suspended from the company over allegations of plagiarizing a competitor's designs. The so-called evidence design files, internal emails, were anonymously sent to HR. Documents I had never seen before, yet they bore my name. My signature, crafted so meticulously they slipped past internal audits. I knew only one person had both the time and the cruelty to pull this off. Harper. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She just smirked and said one thing. "Did you really think you could be the perfect child forever? It's time you learned what failure feels like." That day, I walked away, swearing to myself Harper would never have a place in my life again. I thought Aiden understood that. Understood why Harper, to me, wasn't just a sister. I had told him everything, from childhood scars to the deepest wounds she had inflicted. He held me, saying the past didn't define who I was, that we'd build a life where toxic people had no space. I believed him. Until one evening, as we were going over the guest list, I saw Aiden hesitate. His eyes lingered on the name Harper in the notes column, even though I was certain it had never been there before. My heart sank. My instincts had never been wrong. I was 26 when my budding career was destroyed by Harper's calculated sabotage. Back then, I was working at a creative agency in San Francisco, where breakthrough ideas could redefine an entire brand. I had been nominated for Project Lead, a rare opportunity for someone with less than 4 years of experience. That night, I called my parents, my excitement barely contained. My mother cried with pride. My father, ever composed, was surely smiling on the other end of the line. Only one person stayed silent. She always did, but her eyes said it all. "You won't keep this for long." Foolishly, I thought it was harmless insecurity. 3 weeks later, I received an email from HR, summoning me to discuss serious ethical concerns. I remember laughing when I first read it, thinking it had to be a mistake. But when I stepped into that small meeting room, reality hit like a freight train. They laid out forged emails, doctored design files labeled as copies from a rival company. Every document bore my name, my signature, and the timestamps matched the late nights I had actually worked. The fabrication was so flawless I almost believed it myself. But I knew. Only Harper had both the motive and the malice to orchestrate this. We had an unspoken rivalry. The more I succeeded, the harder Harper worked to drag me down. In high school, after I earned a full scholarship to an art school, Harper spread a rumor that I had slept with a teacher to get ahead. The gossip spread like wildfire, forcing me to switch schools just before senior year to escape the scrutiny. In college, when I started dating Tyler, a music student, Harper quietly inserted herself as the sweet little sister. 3 months later, Tyler admitted he had cheated on me. The other woman? Harper. That time, I told myself she'd never hurt me again. I was wrong. What happened at the company left me with nothing. My reputation was smeared, my career stalled. No one wanted to hire a so-called plagiarist no matter how much I tried to explain. I had to leave San Francisco, return to Seattle, and start over from scratch, with a short-term contract job that paid less than half of what I used to earn. And Harper? She didn't even bother hiding her satisfaction. When I confronted her over the phone, her voice was as sweet as honey. "You should thank me, Nora. Thanks to me, you finally know what it feels like to be stepped on." I cut off all contact right after that call. My parents knew what happened, but instead of standing up for me, they came up with excuses for Harper. "She's just lost. Your sister needs more love." Year after year, those words sliced into my pride like a dull knife. I moved out, deleted all my social media, and blocked every number connected to Harper. It took me nearly 2 years to rebuild even a part of my career. And then I met Aiden. He was the first person who didn't look at me through the lens of old rumors. He never asked about Harper, never pried into the scars of my past. He simply listened when I was ready to share. I believed that chapter of my life was closed, till the day I saw Aiden hesitate at Harper's name on the guest list. I didn't need to ask, I knew exactly what was happening. My gut told me something I didn't want to admit. Harper was about to walk back into my world. And this time, she wouldn't need to sneak in. I had already lost my job, my trust, even a piece of myself because of one person. Was I about to lose the man I loved too? The thought sent a cold chill down my spine. I used to think Aiden and I were like the final 2 puzzle pieces of a life coming together. We loved each other quietly but firmly, like he often said, "Nora, love doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be strong enough to withstand the storms." And I believed that, until Harper's name quietly crept back in, right when I thought everything had found its peace. I had told Aiden everything, from the childhood spent under the shadow of a sister who thrived on destruction, to the final blow when Harper dragged me into a whirlpool of slander. I hid nothing. Every scar, every time I picked myself back up, I laid it bare. Raw and honest. That day we were sitting in our usual cafe at Pike Place Market. The noise of the crowd couldn't drown out the heaviness between us. Aiden held my hand, his gaze never leaving mine as I said firmly, "Harper is not allowed at our wedding. No reasons, no exceptions." He nodded without hesitation. "I understand. This is your boundary, and I will protect it." I believed him. Believed that being clear from the start would keep the past from repeating itself. But I had underestimated 2 things: Aiden's blind kindness and Harper's venom. At first, everything seemed fine. Aiden didn't mention Harper, and I didn't need to bring her up again. We were busy planning a small, intimate wedding with just close family and friends. Every time I watched Aiden carefully select flowers, I felt my heart ease. I wanted to believe the past had finally let me go. But things began to shift when his mother entered the picture. Evelyn was a woman with very clear views. Family is family no matter what they've done. Over dinner at a small Italian restaurant, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "Nora, everyone deserves a chance to make things right. Harper is your sister. Think about the future. Don't cling to the past." I clenched the napkin on my lap, forcing myself to stay composed. Aiden's hand rested lightly on my back, a gentle reminder. But from that moment, I noticed the doubt creeping into his eyes. Conversations about Harper became more frequent. "I'm not saying you're wrong, Nora, but are you sure Harper isn't remorseful?" "It's been so long. People can change, you know. Maybe if you forgave her, you'd feel lighter too." Every word felt like a needle, poking holes into the resolve I had fought so hard to maintain. I tried again and again to make Aiden understand. Forgiveness is not an automatic obligation. Some wounds, even when they close, still ache whenever someone scratches at them. This isn't about who's right or wrong, Aiden. This is my boundary. If you can't respect that, I'm not sure we're still looking in the same direction. For the first time, Aiden fell silent. Not because he had nothing to say, but because he was caught between his compassion and his understanding of me. As the wedding day approached, the pressure grew heavier. Every discussion about the guest list, Harper's name lurked beneath every glance, every half-finished sentence. I was exhausted, drained by the very person I thought was my safe harbor. The breaking point came one evening when Aiden suddenly asked, "If Harper truly wanted to apologize, would you give her a chance?" I looked at him for a long time. My eyes in that moment were no longer those of a bride eagerly awaiting her big day. "No, Aiden. The answer will always be no. If you can't accept that, say it outright." He didn't answer, but that silence said it all. I stood up and walked out of our apartment, leaving behind a cold, empty space. Every step echoed down the long hallway, reflecting every time I had compromised, every time I had chipped away at my own boundaries just to please someone else. It wasn't that girl anymore. And maybe Aiden never truly understood me. I knew Aiden was hiding something from the moment he started avoiding my gaze whenever I mentioned Harper. He no longer gave me those firm reassurances. "I'm on your side." Instead, it was vague comments, half-hearted hand squeezes, and a suffocating silence that dragged on longer each day. I had hoped I was just being overly sensitive, but my gut told me otherwise. The truth came out on a Friday night, after a long, exhausting week. I came home earlier than planned, just wanting a quiet dinner to forget everything. But when I opened the door, I froze. Aiden was sitting on the sofa, phone pressed to his ear, his voice low but clear with every word. "Harper, I think you should talk to Nora directly, but let me smooth things over first. You know how stubborn she is." My whole body went cold. Those words, the casual way he spoke to the person who had destroyed me, behind my back, as if it were normal, hit me like a punch to the gut. I didn't yell, I didn't throw anything, I just walked straight to him, stood right in front of him. He jumped, nearly dropping his phone. "Nora, I heard everything." My voice was so calm it startled even me. "How long have you been talking to Harper?" Aiden was speechless. A heavy breath passed before he finally admitted, "About 2 months." "But I was only trying to help you, Nora. You're still chained to the past, and I can't just watch the woman I love stay trapped in that hate." I laughed, a dry, bitter laugh. "Help me? By teaming up with the person who wrecked my career and my name?" He reached out, trying to grab my hand, but I stepped back. "Aiden, you crossed the line. This time it's not Harper who betrayed me, it's you." His face tightened. "You don't understand. Harper really wants to apologize. She's changed, Nora. She's been in therapy for 2 years. She's human too, you know. She can regret things." "Is that what she told you, and you believed her?" Aiden nodded. And in that moment, I knew. The distance between us had become permanent. 2 days later, with cruel irony, Harper herself lit the fuse for the final crack. That morning I received a text from an unknown number. "Nora, I know it's hard for you to accept, but Aiden genuinely cares about your feelings. Unlike you." Attached was a screenshot of the text exchange between Harper and Aiden. The conversation wasn't just about making peace. Harper, in her usual toxic way, went straight for my pride, throwing in her venomous words. "She always thinks she's better than everyone. Maybe it's time she knows what it feels like to disappoint the people who love her." Every single word, every period, cut into the trust I had fought so hard to protect. When I showed Aiden the screenshot, his face went pale. But what hurt me most wasn't Harper's betrayal. It was Aiden's silence. He didn't deny it. He didn't even apologize right away. He just lowered his head, as if he knew he was wrong but couldn't comprehend the cruelty of his mistake. "Nora, I genuinely just want you to be happy. By trampling on my boundaries, by bringing Harper back into my life despite everything I've been through, Aiden, that's not love, that's betrayal." I didn't cry. I had fallen apart because of Harper before. But this time, I wouldn't allow myself to be weak again. If you truly loved me, you wouldn't think you have the right to decide who gets to be in my life. Aiden nodded quietly, regret filling his eyes. But regret couldn't mend the trust that had already shattered. That night, I moved out of our apartment. There were no words to stop me. Outside, the rain poured relentlessly. But inside, I felt a strange calm. Harper had won once again. But unlike before, I no longer saw myself as a victim. I had become strong enough to understand. Forgiveness is not an obligation. And once trust is betrayed, love cannot go back to what it was. That same afternoon, I sent out emails canceling all the wedding services. I didn't hesitate for a second. The venue, booked 6 months ago, was forfeited along with the deposit. The wedding dress I had cherished through 3 fittings now had no reason to ever be worn. The restaurant, the band, the flowers, one by one, I erased them, like crossing out a dream that no longer fit. What needed to happen happened. That evening, Aiden's mother called me. Her voice was sharp as a blade. "Nora, are you really going to end this over a small disagreement? Everyone makes mistakes, even Aiden." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Mrs. Evelyn, I've been clear from the start. This isn't a small issue, this is my boundary and Aiden crossed it." "A boundary? Don't use that as an excuse for your stubbornness. Family is about forgiveness and healing. You'll understand when you mature." The call ended with me politely wishing her a good night. But every word she said felt like a dare, challenging me to give in. That I wasn't the girl who bent over backwards to please everyone anymore. 2 days later, my parents invited me over for dinner. The way my mother said, "The family just wants to see you," made me wary, but I still went. Memories of my old home flooded back as I walked through the door. This used to be where I felt safe. Before Harper turned everything into a battlefield. As expected, Harper was there. She sat right in the middle of the dining room, legs crossed, looking utterly at ease as if this was just another casual family gathering. I froze at the threshold, my voice dropping low. "So today's a surprise family intervention, huh?" My father spoke first. "Nora, sweetheart, we can't go on like this. You're sisters, you can't cut family off over things that happened in the past." I looked at him, a wave of cold exhaustion washing over me. "The past? Do you even know what Harper has done? Or are you still convincing yourself it was just her making mistakes?" Harper let out a dry laugh. "Go playing the victim, huh? It's been years, Nora. Aren't you tired yet?" I turned to my mother, hoping to find a shred of fairness in her eyes, but she only sighed softly. "Nora, you're being too rigid. Harper knows she was wrong. She wants to apologize. Don't let hatred ruin your future." This time, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "An apology? You mean the kind where she manipulates my fiancé, slanders me behind my back, and then sits here pretending to be the bigger person?" The air in the room grew thick. I knew exactly what they wanted. They wanted me to give in, to bow my head and say, "Fine, I forgive her." But what they didn't know was this. I had lived long enough in the shadow of that facade. You don't have to pretend anymore. I came here to say this one last time. Harper is no longer family to me. If you want to keep going in circles, that's your choice. But don't expect me to follow. My father clenched his fist. "Nora, you're pushing yourself away from this family." I looked him straight in the eye, my voice calm but sharp as a blade. "No, Dad, this family has been pushing me away for a long time. I'm just finally brave enough to walk out." I turned around, each step echoing through the house that used to feel so familiar, now cold and empty in the most painful way. Outside, the wind lashed against my face, sharp and biting, but it kept me clear-headed. A message from Aiden arrived just as I got back to my empty apartment. "Nora, I'm sorry. I truly just wanted what's best for you. Please give me a chance to explain." I set my phone down without replying. They all thought they knew what was best for me better than I did, but none of them had ever asked what I truly wanted. That night, I opened my laptop and typed a short email to the wedding venue manager. "I confirm the cancellation of the wedding on October 15th. Please proceed with the cancellation fee invoice. Thank you." I hit send after the final line. That was it. Seattle's winter arrived slowly but heavily. Relentless rain blanketed the city in a thick, damp fog, as heavy and cold as old memories. My inbox lit up with a familiar name. Harper Miller, final apology. I didn't open it, didn't read it. For the first time, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no need to brace myself and stay strong. Just indifference. Forgiveness is a strange concept. People think it's something you give to those who hurt you. But in reality, it only matters when you, the one who was hurt, actually want to give it. I had learned how to let go without calling it forgiveness. The day I permanently deleted Harper's last email, there was no drama, no tears, just a simple click of the mouse. But for me, it was the closing of an entire chapter filled with hurt. When pain is no longer fed by other people's expectations, it shrinks on its own. The time I had left, I devoted to myself. My mornings now started with small things I used to consider luxuries: brewing my own coffee, soft music playing from a Bluetooth speaker, a few pages of a book before heading to work. I began building healthy habits, waking up a little earlier to walk around Green Lake. With every step, I reminded myself, I'm still here, still moving forward, still breathing, without anyone else defining my worth. Design had always been my passion, but over the years, I had turned it into an excuse to hide from myself. Now, it was different. I worked with rarer focus, not to prove anything to anyone, but simply because I loved it. A brand redesign project for a local coffee shop kept me busy for weeks. Watching my ideas slowly come to life on signboards, coffee cups, and packaging brought me a pure joy I thought I had lost. My friends gradually helped me settle back into a normal rhythm. Sam still invited me for morning walks every Sunday. Claire patiently dragged me to small art exhibitions around the city. No one asked about Harper, about Aiden, or the wedding that had been wiped from the calendar. They were simply there, in the truest sense. Then I met Alex. Not at a bar, nor at some awkward blind date like people often say. We met for the first time at a vintage book fair in downtown Seattle, a place where nostalgic souls like me often wandered on weekends. I was bent over, flipping through stacks of old books, the scent of aged paper mixing with the rich aroma of coffee from a street cart nearby. A deep, slightly teasing voice spoke up beside me. Careful with that, Hemingway. Those pages are sharp. I've been a victim before. I looked up to meet the eyes of a man, sharp, but not cold. He had the rugged look of someone who'd lived through more than a few storms. A half smile lingered on his lips, not exactly inviting, but impossible to dislike. That was Alex, 34, a freelance architect with one failed marriage behind him and a very clear stance on superficial relationships. Either be honest or don't waste my time. Our conversation started in the most natural way. No small talk, no forced niceties, just two strangers standing by the same bookshelf, exchanging a few words about literature, accidentally digging deeper without realizing it. There was a time I thought I had to keep everything intact, but in the end, the only thing I should have saved was myself. That's how Alex spoke of his divorce. No dramatics, no playing the victim. Just a man who had weathered his storms and learned to accept reality. I didn't say much, but I knew my eyes betrayed every scar I carried. Our later encounters came just as effortlessly. One day, Alex sent me a photo of a small lakeside cafe with a simple message. This place might make rainy days feel a little better, if you'd like to try. No pressure, no savior complex, just a gentle invitation, enough to make me feel comfortable. Alex never asked about Harper, never mentioned Aiden. He wasn't curious why my gaze would dim whenever someone brought up family. Instead, we talked about little things. Why Seattle seems made for sad jazz. Why black coffee always wins on a drizzly morning. Even how to keep a lavender plant alive through a damp winter. In that simplicity, I rediscovered what it felt like to have my boundaries respected. Once, Alex invited me to a photo exhibit his friend was hosting. I hesitated, not because I didn't want to go, but because I wasn't ready to step into a crowd pretending to be okay. He simply smiled, nodded. That's perfectly fine, Nora. You don't owe anyone your presence, not even me. That one sentence lifted a weight I didn't know I was still carrying. I realized that for years, I had been trapped in a cycle of pleasing others, maintaining peace even when it shattered me inside. But Alex? He gave me a space where I didn't have to be polite, agreeable, or healed just to make someone else comfortable. He didn't fix me. He simply showed up, reminding me that peace doesn't come from forced forgiveness, but from having the courage to protect my own boundaries. That afternoon, sitting with Alex under the cafe's awning, watching the rain fall quietly, I knew one thing for certain. I was no longer the Nora I used to be. And this time, that feeling was truly mine. Each morning, as sunlight streamed through my small window, I felt it more clearly with each passing day. I didn't know what the future would bring. But for the first time in a long while, I was okay with that. I no longer waited for the perfect apology. I no longer craved validation from those who had never valued me. I only needed the courage to be kind to myself, one day at a time. And right now, that's all I wanted. I used to think that keeping happiness meant learning to compromise. But what no one told me was, compromise with whom? And at what cost? With Aiden, I compromised too much. I stayed quiet, tried to see things from his different perspective. But in the end, what I lost wasn't just the relationship, it was my own voice. I walked away from that relationship not because I stopped loving him, but because I refused to trade my self-respect for an empty promise. It hurt, fiercely. There were nights when the city slept, and I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering, if I had just let it go, would things have been easier? But in those silent hours, the answer became crystal clear. Peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict. Peace comes when you dare to say, enough. I lost Aiden. I lost a family that was once my anchor. But in return, I gained something far more precious. The freedom to be myself, without needing anyone's permission. Alex's presence made me realize that I didn't need to be perfect, didn't need to be lovable to earn a place in someone's life. For so long I chased approval, from family, from lovers, from society. And in doing so, I forgot the one person whose approval mattered most, myself. One morning, as sunlight filtered through the curtains, my phone buzzed. It was Sam, the old friend who had patiently stood by me through it all. "Want to go on a trekking trip this weekend? Just us? No drama, no fake smiles." I smiled. Absolutely. As I stepped outside, the breeze brushed against my face, carrying the scent of fresh greenery as summer approached. I took a deep breath, feeling every cell in my lungs fill with the oxygen of freedom. I knew the road ahead was still long. There would be days I'd doubt myself, times when the past would come knocking again. But now, I no longer felt the need to wear the label of perfect to please anyone. I knew how to say no. I was learning to truly listen to myself. Most importantly, I knew I deserved a life not shackled by others' expectations. Maybe I had lost people I once loved, but I had found the one person I could never afford to lose. Myself. Nora's story is a powerful reminder that in real life, setting boundaries and protecting your self-worth might cost you relationships you thought were irreplaceable. But that courage opens the door to true freedom, peace, and genuine growth. No one else gets to define your happiness. And no one deserves a place in your life if they can't respect your true self. In the end, choosing to live authentically is the most liberating choice you can make. What do you think about Nora's decision? Would you have the courage to defend your boundaries like she did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt stories about family and life.